Thursday night, the night of the fire, I was in the WCSA office where I'm always am studying. I was actually sitting down to do an assignment when one of my friends came in and he's like, "Hey Ethan, what number do we call the arches are on fire?" And I was like, "Public safety," but they're probably already notified. And then I went outside to the balcony in the KSC, and 5 people and I were just like, this was at 5:30. This was right kind of at the beginning. So it was a very little fire, but you could see the zigzag of the road, and you could see the fire just increasing so much. Like as every minute passed, it just got bigger, and it was just crazy. Well, this summer I worked for the conference center, and we were trained in the fire response, so obviously I knew to get everyone down to the gym. I was helping the people in the D's get down to the gym, and that's where I went. My first priority was to get to the gym and start setting up the gym. We have a setup plan. That was my plan. I got down to the gym and immediately started helping down there by taping doors so smoke doesn't get in through the doors. And then we set up the first aid table, being a lifeguard. And that was, that I just wanted to help that out. So I was there at the first aid table at that time. I was in the gym till about, I can't even really remember, about 10:30 or 11. Or one of my friends on public safety who knows me, and he wanted to get me and a couple of guys to go out up to Page. Going up to Page was probably the freakiest thing because everything around us was burning. The physics building was in full flame, and firefighters were just going all out everywhere. And but getting up to Page, all the power was off, so it was kind of like a haunted house, if you will. The main heat of the fire had passed, and this was just kind of, it was still, dangerous out there. But so I got a couple of friends that, two of the bravest guys I know, and we basically, Tom was gonna take us up to Page with extinguishers and so on and so forth, and be stationed outside of there in case of a flare-up, because there was a lot of heat on the back end. And as we were there, we went up to each section of Page. 2A, not very smoky, 2B, a little more smoky, C, really smoky, and then we went up to the 3rd floor, and it was like everything on the 2nd floor, only worse on the 3rd floor, so, heat by section. But when we got into 3C, it was just gnarly up there. And one of the rooms the room that we were going to be stationed out of was just super smoky. So we immediately left, and the fire chief took over, and Randy Jones took over, and they took out a fire that they found in the wall in the back end of the Page. And I think there's still a hole there right now, but they'll patch it sooner or later. This was public safety doing that. And then Troy was like, we can't have students out there, so we were brought back, and another public safety officer was stationed up there.
Okay.
Westmont. To be honest, we couldn't really do anything because we didn't have the equipment or the manpower like the firefighters did, so they actually took over when we left. Originally Page was like just a threat. The fire was threatening Page, so we were going to be stationed out of there with the extinguishers just in case of a heat flare. But because, just in case type deal, so it was pretty safe. But, when we saw that room in 3C, we just knew, wow, we gotta get out of here. So we, not really. When Troy said students can't be out there, there was. But I mean, you know, I was up for it and knew I had to do something. I couldn't stay in the gym all night, so I went out. I went out into the fire with some Westmont alums, a Westmont alum, and some of the not public safety, but physical plant guys. And you know, the firefighters had done their thing. Most of it was cooling down, and we went out and put out spot fires and fires that were in the base of trees, especially up by Kerwood in the Nail Center. Some of those fires just kept burning, like even though we used, you know, 2 extinguishers on them. But I mean, we did. We also had to take down some structures. So we had a chainsaw, and the bridge by the prayer chapel. One of my friends actually fell through it while we were out there putting these small fires out. So right when that happened, we were like, dude, we got to take this down because we can't have anyone walking on this. We can't have anyone, you know, leaning on the rail. That's pretty much all the way burned. So we took that down. Obviously, it's rebuilt. They put a new bridge in like the next day or something. So, but yeah, that's what I did for this. And then, I mean, this fire was apparently caused by like one little ember. So, you know, just thinking about that, like we had to put everything out. Or, you know, it seems like, you know, only this side of Westmont was scorched, but this side was fine. But like, what if, you know, one of these little fires just caused, you know, Kerwood to burn, or, you know, one of the fires we put out by Kerwood, or by the mill room. Like, mill room wasn't burned out, and it's a little wood building, but there were fires all right next to it that were still going. So, but that's pretty much, you know, those little fires could cause something. We saw what had to be done, and we did it. To be honest, the firefighters, their main concern is the structure fires. Little spot fires, like they had pretty much started packing up by the time we were putting out these little spot fires. And you know, they had been fighting this thing for probably about, you know, 5 hours, trying to put out, you know, buildings in Clark, protecting Page, putting out the hills. Like, some of the spot fires we were putting out were on these hills that the firefighters already got to, but they were just spot fires left over that had to be taken out. But we saw a job that had to be done, and we did it. And so at 3:30, I went back to the gym to see if there was anything else needed to be done. We had pretty much packed up, and a lot of people in the gym were still asleep. One student at 3:30, you know, missed the bus to reality and probably changed his mind and wanted to go to reality. So I brought him to reality, and then I went to a friend's house in North Santa Barbara. I should probably go into Forest Service and get an experience in seasonal firefighting, those straight wildfires, and then kind of see if I like it, see if the field fits me, and then go into it from there. It made me see that, you know, I could actually do this, and it is something that I'd regret not doing. And I started thinking about it actually probably about a year ago. Maybe even more. Like, I've always contemplated the idea, but I'm like, oh, you know, I can't do that. But, you know, I got to be up and doing something. And just like when I was out there, I felt I was in the right place. Like, this is where I should be. I mean, yes. I mean, what can we say about what happened in the gym? I mean, that was such a blessing. Seeing everyone just praying and worshiping together and having conversations that, you know, wouldn't happen if there wasn't a fire. You know, one of my favorite memories of the night, I know, weird, right? Favorite memory of the night. But one of my favorite memories of the night was when BB announced that Clark was, going. Clark was on fire. Immediately, I had been out in the foyer area helping those guys, and then I went in to the gym after Mimi made the announcement, and I look immediately to my right, and all of Clark is standing in their section, spraying over their section. And it was just like the coolest thing ever to see. And apparently, that's when the firefighters started gaining control of Clark, and that's when the winds started changing. And prayer works. I mean, just look at the prayer chapel.